there everyone, I'm Don, Professor Goe, and welcome to the Goe Pro Travel Tale podcast. Travel far and travel often. Hey there everyone, I'm Don Forster, Professor Goe here at Goe, and welcome to the Goe Pro Travel Tale podcast. Hear from expert guests including conservationists, explorers, tourism professionals and everyday globetrotters to discover fascinating stories in the world of travel and be inspired to travel far and to travel often. Listen and subscribe to the Goe Pro Trails podcast app of choice, or check out episodes on the Goe Pro YouTube channel for video podcasts plus other exciting content on the world of travel. Inspire, motivate, educate. Write your own travel tale, Goe Pro Travel Tale podcast. Now today I'd like to introduce or welcome Andrea Valente, who is the account director of Belmond. Now, for those who may not know who Belmond is, Belmond was formerly the Orient Express chain of properties and trains, correct?
Exactly,
Andrea?
correct.
Okay, so before we get into Belmond, now we know where it was or who it was, can you give us a little background on yourself, who you are, how you came to be representing Belmond and their product?
Yes, so I am your account director. I'm based here in Toronto. So I previously used to be with the Ritz-Carlton for many years. So I was there about 9 years. That was my introduction into the luxury world of hospitality. And then just through those connections, luckily I was able to get within the Belmond family in right post-pandemic. So it's actually 2021. The company was really looking to expand the sales team to make Belmond a bit more well-known in Canada, especially since we don't physically have any products or hotels here. So
in Canada or the US?
The US, we actually only have one now. It's just in Santa Barbara.
Okay, we'll touch on that in a minute.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I was brought in really to bring more awareness to all the Canadians of our amazing collection here. So it's been 3 years with the company.
So from the Ritz-Carlton, which is a 5-star chain, correct?
It is a 5-star, but it is very different. So I used to be with the two Canadian ones here,
Right.
and it is a bit more corporate, definitely. So switching to Belmond, it's much more leisure focused, which has been really fun.
But Belmond, I think most people know, if they don't know the name Belmond, Orient Express would also suggest them that it's a 5-star
Definitely
level
5-star.
of service and product throughout the world.
Exactly.
Okay, so you just mentioned that there is no Belmond properties or otherwise in Canada, but there is one in the US, and you mentioned Santa Barbara?
Santa Barbara, it's called El Encanto, so it's kind of tucked up in the hills.
That's a hotel, I would assume.
Hotel, yes. So it almost looks like a collection of cottages.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a really beautiful spot, but exactly, that's kind of the closest to home for us Canadians to experience it.
Okay, so Belmond is fair to say worldwide?
Worldwide.
In its offerings? Okay. I was going to read something I picked up from your website. In 2024, the company had 47 properties in 28 countries and territories.
Exactly.
With 32 hotels, 6 trains, and 7 riverboat cruises and 2 safaris.
Exactly.
Okay. Something else, the company was founded in 1976 by an American entrepreneur, James Sherwood, with the acquisition of the Hotel Cipriani in Venice.
Exactly.
He then bought some carriages from the original Orient Express train, which he restored and used to offer rides from Paris to London to his hotel in Venice. And it was in 2014 that Orient Express became Belmond. And I remember working with Orient Express when it was Orient Express, and it was Belmond. Now, my background is the Latin America area, so I'm quite well versed with your products. I believe it's just in Peru. Is that correct?
And we have 2 in Brazil as well. So
yes, of course you have. What's the hotel in Rio?
Yes, we have Copacabana Palace.
Copacabana Palace, of course.
And then we also have Hotel das Cataratas, which is at Iguazu Falls.
Oh, of course. God, I sold those all the time. How could I forget Das Cataratas?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll come back to Latin America. We'll round up with that. So we have in Peru. There's a hotel. There's a train.
Peru is actually quite a big hub for us
It is,
now.
yeah.
So we have 6 hotels and 2 trains in Peru.
Okay, you have the Monasterio.
Monasterio and Palacio Nazarenes are actually they're right next door to each other in Cusco.
That's in Cusco. And you have the Sanctuary Lodge.
Sanctuary Lodge, which is right at the gates of Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
We also have Rio Sagrado, which is in the Sacred Valley. We also have one in Lima called Miraflores Park Hotel.
Oh, the Miraflores, yeah.
And then the last one is Colca Canyon. So we have Hotel...
Which one's in the Colca?
It's called Las Casitas.
When did Belmond take that one on?
We've had it for quite a bit now.
Oh, really?
It's part of the collection. So it's quite small. So it's only about 15 cottages down in the canyon.
Yeah.
But the best part about that is it pairs really nicely with our train, the Andean Explorer.
Yes.
Because that starts in Cusco and goes down to Arequipa, and there's a stop where you can hop off at Colca Canyon.
Yeah, okay, and we'll expand on that in a minute. Okay, so would it be fair to say Peru is your biggest centre then of properties and trains?
It's actually Italy still.
Italy, okay, so Italy would be number one in number of, so let's go through Italy then.
Yeah, so we have 9 hotels now in Italy. So like you mentioned, the whole company, once we got the carriages for the Venice Simplon Orient Express, the Cipriani was the first hotel, which was in Venice, and the Italian portfolio definitely grew from there. We have 9 now. The latest was actually just this year. We have a brand new hotel that opened called Romazzino in Sardinia. So that was the latest collection. And Italy is definitely very important to Belmond. So it's going to continue to grow. You're going to see more hotels coming to Italy.
Okay, for those who are watching our podcast here on our YouTube channel, so we've got Venice, Sardinia, and what other locations?
If we start from top to bottom, so
let's do
Venice would be the most northern. Then we have 2 hotels now in Portofino, Splendido and Splendido Mare. Next, if we head down to Florence, Tuscany area, we have Villa San Michele in Florence, up in the hills of Fiesole. We also have in Tuscany Castello di Casale, which is on 4,200 acres of land, very in the country. It's beautiful. Heading down to the Amalfi Coast, we're in Ravello. We have Caruso, and then we have 2 in Sardinia. So we have both in Taormina, but we have one up in the town called Grand Hotel Tomeo, and then we also have Villa San Andrea, which is essentially your quintessential beach escape in Sicily, right on the water.
Nice.
Yeah.
So again, for those who are watching, I would have thrown up a map while you were talking there, Andrea.
Perfect.
So people will know geographically what we're talking about there. So Italy is just hotels, no trains,
no specific trains. However, the Venice Simplon Orient Express, one of the biggest hubs, is in Venice.
Right.
So it's very likely that someone would do the trip and then stay at the Cipriani after.
So that classic Orient Express train ride, which people might know from movies and books, runs from Venice to London, or did?
It still does. The thing is, that's one of the best things about Belmond in the past couple of years. We've really expanded our variety of offerings on that train. So the 2 hubs would definitely be Venice and Paris. That's the most common route to do that
Venice,
journey.
Paris is the most common. Okay.
But they're all one-night journeys. So now, for example, you can go from Paris to Florence, Paris to Rome, Brussels, Amsterdam. Our longest journey goes to Istanbul. That's a 5-night journey. From Paris.
From Paris.
Yeah. And now we also go to Portofino, to Cannes. You can do the French Alps.
So Paris is the main,
Paris is normally...
It's the hub.
Normally it's on one of the legs. You're either starting
Finish.
or ending in Paris.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned overnight. Again, the shorter trip, not Istanbul. So I would assume that the train let's just talk Paris, Venice for the sake of conversation. I would assume that it's sleeper cars.
Sleeper cars.
Okay.
We have a few different cabin options. The smallest would be like your historic cabin, which actually has the upper and lower berths.
Oh, okay.
Going up to the largest carriage, which would be our Grand Suite. Sneak peek, actually next year, starting in July, we have a brand new carriage coming out. So to give you an idea, one carriage would hold 9 regular cabins or 3 grand suites. The newest suite we're offering is a whole carriage to itself.
Wow, really?
So it's going to be the most
high-end. Yeah.
Yes, and it's going to be
indulgent.
Very unique of its kind in comparison to any other train journey. So that's a bucket list.
So again, we're talking this train. Now tell me if this sort of rolls out, because I know the Peruvian trains.
Yes.
Okay, but I don't know any other trains you might run.
Okay.
So if what you're describing is applicable to other trains, can you just let us know that?
Yeah.
So you have your sleeper berth, of course.
Yes.
I would assume there's dining cars on board. Is there an observation car on that particular train, the European one?
The Venice Simplon Orient Express is the only one that doesn't have an observation car.
Does not have.
Yes,
okay.
But we have multiple dining cars. We have a bar car. So, for instance, in the bar car, there would be a grand piano. There's live entertainment with like a horn section, a singer. So the Venice Simplon is kind of a bit different, to be honest, because it's a bit it's a one-night journey. The destination is the train. So really you're on board the whole time.
Yep.
Whereas the Andean Explorer, like you mentioned, in Peru, or we also have the Royal Scotsman now in Scotland.
Which runs from?
That one is always in and out of Edinburgh, but it could be anywhere, almost up to 7 nights if you wanted to.
Right.
But those are a bit different because they'll have observation cars, they'll have the dining cars, the bar cars. They also have spa cars on them because you're on them longer.
Okay.
So the Royal Scotsman, for example, had the first Dior spa ever on a train, so you could get a really cool treatment going through the countryside there. But those have a bit more in terms of offerings because you're on for a longer amount of time.
So as you say, I guess without cheapening the product, which it's not by any means, but the sort of European, excluding the Istanbul, is more of a connector, whereas the other journeys would be a journey on a train, a train journey versus getting from point A to point B.
Yes, the other one is very much, you're getting from point A to point B, but you want to do it in the most grand experience. It's a formal affair. We're bringing you back to the 20s and 30s.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
I know this doesn't apply for the Belmond in Peru, but for the European. And when I now say European, I'm talking
the Venice Simplon Orient
Venice
Express.
And also the UK.
The Royal Scotsman.
The Royal Scotsman.
Okay.
Is the dress code, is it an enforced dress code of formal or
just
suggested?
on the Venice Simplon Orient Express? Yeah, in that, because it's a one night, that one is more formal.
So you're basically going out for dinner on a train, starting in one city and ending up in another.
Exactly. Okay. Whereas the Royal Scotsman, there's one, we say formal, but it's much more casual. And we actually do that because one of the experiences on board is you could get the full Scottish dress put in your cabin so that you could be in a kilt and everything.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of one way. We just make one of the evenings a bit more formal so people can enjoy that way.
Right.
Yeah.
But the actual journey, but if you were to choose like 7 days, it's casual with a formal night. And of course, if you wanted to dress up throughout,
you absolutely could.
Of course you can. Okay.
Yeah.
So when someone books on, we're talking trains here at the moment, books, and excluding the Peru one, which is more of a connector, like a very short connector, time-wise, the cost of a berth includes what? Is it
on the Venice Simplon?
Okay, that was my. Okay. Is it pretty much standard, or
it's pretty
varies
much standard
by journey?
It varies a little bit. So again, always the Venice Simplon Orient Express is a little different. Okay. So with every single train of ours, everything is included in terms of food and beverage. Like that. The only difference with the Venice Simplon Orient Express is after your dinner in the bar car, those drinks would be on consumption. That's the only additional cost involved.
Okay.
Whereas the Andean Explorer in Peru, the Royal Scotsman in the UK, we also, I didn't mention yet, but we have a train that starts and ends in Singapore and goes through Malaysia now.
Oh, because didn't you used to have one that ran from Bangkok to Singapore?
This is the same, yeah. So the same train. Right now we're not including Thailand yet. We're still... Again, post-pandemic, there's still some different laws about going into the country. So hopefully eventually one day we'll get back.
Tied to COVID still?
Restrictions that came in after that, with train travel. So hopefully we can get back. But regardless, we have an amazing new journey that goes throughout the heart of Malaysia now.
Okay, so I know we're jumping all over destinations here, but so the Malaysian option runs from where to where?
It starts and ends in Singapore, but it will go through Malaysia.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those three, like Scotland, Malaysia, and Peru, those three are very similar in that when you book online or with our team, everything is included. All your food and beverage, all your excursions, transfers to and from the hotel to get to the train station. Okay. So that's very much considered that an all-inclusive package.
Entrances to any sites you may visit.
If we're going to stay in Scotland, sometimes there's touring castles, or if you're going into a national park in Malaysia, all that's included.
So basically from hotel pickup to hotel drop-off when you buy a Belmond train journey, everything's included.
Exactly.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. Now, so we have trains in the UK, we have trains in Europe, trains in Asia, Malaysia, Singapore. We've talked Peru. Any other train journeys? So
the only other ones that we have are actually 2-day trains. And I do like to bring these up because I kind of feel like if someone is interested in a train, but maybe they have yet to pull the trigger on booking an overnight journey with us, a great option is to try a day train just to get a taste of what life on board would be. So one of them actually is also in Peru. It takes you from it takes you from Cusco to Machu Picchu, or the reverse trip. But the other is the British Pullman, and that's in and out of London. variety of different options. You could be doing a champagne brunch, a 4-course lunch. We have 4-course dinner. We even have a murder mystery one. So we have live actors on board where you could solve the mystery before getting back to London. And that, especially because the UK, that's usually a great stopover location. So if you maybe don't have time to do the countryside, you could do it in one afternoon, right?
So those are my next questions. So the UK ones are like a 4-hour, 5-hour trip?
Between 4 to 5 hours, exactly.
Nice. And the Hiram Bingham from memory is like 2 hours, depending on where you pick up the train.
Yeah, it's a tiny bit longer now. It may be about 3.5 hours.
Okay.
But that one's equally as great. You're usually on the way there, you're doing a brunch. On the way back, it's a 4-course dinner. And there's, again, live entertainment in the bar car. There's the observation deck. So
I've been lucky enough to stay at Rio Sagrado.
Okay.
I've done the Hiram Bingham a few times. Stayed at the Sanctuary only twice. And I've been to Machu Picchu a million times. So I'm only there twice. I think that's only... No, I stayed at the Miraflores Park in Lima.
Oh, so you just have to head to Colca Canyon, really?
No, I've never. Every time we were in the Colca Canyon, we camped.
Okay.
I was a tour guide back in the day.
Right.
And I don't think Las Casitas were there when I was tour leading, and we're talking a long time ago. But haven't been back in the canyon for a while. But even then, I think we drove by the Casitas and didn't go in.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. So I've experienced, I don't know, say 4 or 5 of the.
Wonderful,
the products.
yeah.
Yourself, you're throwing them all. Like, of
I
course,
know,
that's your job. You know
over.
them all. Have you been to them all?
Not them all yet, but honestly, quite a bit. The collection I haven't explored yet are the safaris. I have been on safari, but that was before I joined the company, so I need to head to those.
Okay, so I didn't know that Belmond did safaris as a product type. So tell me what a Belmond safari is versus a normal safari, for want of a better term. So
we have 2 really unique ones. They're both in northern Botswana, and they're a 20-minute flight apart from one another, and we use a partner Maciar. So we have a lot of guests. If they're going to safari with us, they're staying at both. They usually do 3 nights, 3 nights. But the best thing is they're 2 totally different experiences. So one would be in Chobe National Park, very much like a desert landscape. This was totally redone, this hotel, for 2020 when it reopened. So it's got an amazing pool deck. It's ultimate luxury, but there's only 12 tented cabins. Well,
are both these safari lodges, are they tented camps or like?
They're permanent tented camps.
Permanent, but they are tented versus solid buildings, so to speak.
Exactly. Okay, right. Yeah.
So back to the sort of colonial-esque vibe.
Yes. Yeah, okay. And that one has a great watering hole right out front because that's the more desert landscape. You actually can do quite a bit of incredible viewing right from your terrace or if you're at the pool. But they'll do the traditional game drives morning and evening. Whereas we have that one. Then Eagle Island Lodge would be for someone I'd say that's maybe a bit more adventurous, wants something totally unique because we are on a private concession there. We're on an island. So May through October, the water is right up, kind of surrounding the property. That's where you could do the Makoro canoes. We have speedboats.
So this one's in the Delta itself?
This is in the Okavango Delta,
right,
yes.
So you got one in the Delta, one
in Chobe.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. So that one you're like more, you could be eye level with the elephants in the water if you're on the canoes. We do have larger barges as well to do cruises in the evening and the speedboats. And there, because we're on the private concession, you have more opportunities to do different excursions, like helicopters. You can even do horseback riding there. Nice. So really cool to get very different experiences and game viewing from both locations. Yeah,
and I highly recommend anyone listening or watching that if you're looking at selling or pushing an African safari, that you consider Botswana and the Delta in particular, because it's such, like everyone expects and gets, the classic savanna type safari, but the Delta is so different because,
very different.
As you're saying, Andrea, it's water based primarily in Makoros, which are dugout canoes.
Yeah.
Hippos, elephants, all in the water. It's if you're a fisherman too or fisher person.
Yeah.
It's a really good spot to go fishing as well.
Exactly.
So it's a good option. So you being Belmond, have 2 camps, tented camps.
We have 2 camps
and the Delta.
Yeah, and we do have a hotel in Cape Town. So we have Mount Nelson Hotel, which big historic building it was painted pink for peace over 100 years ago now.
I know the building. I didn't know it was Belmond. Okay,
yeah. A lot of people know that building. It's been frequented by Nelson Mandela. It's a very historic property. So that's kind of a nice way to either start or end your journey in Africa before heading to Botswana.
Okay, so if an agent's looking at your properties and services, hotels, hang on, before we get into that.
Yes.
Boats or
Boats.
River vessels.
Yes.
Where are your river vessels?
Yeah, I know the company says river cruisers online. I personally call them canal cruisers because they're very different.
Right.
They are barges, essentially, that are for charter only. So consider this a floating villa. You have your own cabin crew, private chef, tour
so
guide
it's not
on board.
for a group. It's it could be a family of people,
exactly.
but it's not a group tour. It's
No.
It's
So we have
chartered vessel.
Yeah, the smallest is actually only 2 cabins, 4 people. The largest is 12 people, 6 cabins. And this, similar to the trains, consider it all-inclusive. It's 6 nights, 7 days. Again, you have the tour guide and everything. All your food and beverage is included, all your excursions.
A chef or cook
chef on board.
Okay.
So they actually would call the clients or the advisors about 2 months before, kind of show them the planned itinerary, but then say, what do you want to change? What do you like eating?
Okay, so it's
fully
somewhat
customized.
Somewhat it sounds very customizable.
Yeah, exactly.
And where are they sailing?
So they go through, it's only in France. However, we go through Champagne, Canal du Midi, Burgundy, or Provence. So 4 different regions. And again, because they're these smaller boats, they go through these really narrow canals that you wouldn't see these towns on a river cruiser, right? They're a bit more unique, a bit less touristy as well. A lot of
So
local.
this will get you, I don't say off the beaten path because it is France, which has a lot of unique, quiet areas, but it's not on the tourist trail.
Definitely not. No.
Right. So if you're looking to get away from the usual crowds, in your own obviously privacy, your own chartered vessel, this is the way to do it for sure.
Exactly. It's a really unique experience. We didn't necessarily touch on it yet, but I do want to remind people that Belmond is owned by LVMH, Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy. Okay. So I especially like to mention that, especially for these barges, because, for example, we go through the Champagne region, right? LVMH owns all those historic champagne houses. Right. So consider those experiences. We can have a really unique take that a lot of other companies can't get those clients in.
So where would be the hub for the cruises? Paris again?
Yeah, so we included in the experience, we would include round trip transfers to and from Paris, wherever the clients are staying. Sometimes if they're doing, say, a journey more south, Provence region or somewhere a bit lower, we could do round trip transfers even to Geneva, anywhere they're kind of headed afterwards.
They would be add-on costs, so for outside of Paris, or would that be included?
No, we've included.
Oh, you included as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have flexibility in that respect to where they're starting or finishing, within reason, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if a client or an agent out there is looking at all your properties, let's talk the river cruise. By booking a Belmond hotel,
yes,
in conjunction with the canal cruise, your term,
yes,
cruise, are there any discounts? Is there any benefit in doing all Belmond from start to finish or within?
Yeah, so there always is for all of our hotels. I will mention, though, that for specifically Peru and Africa, we have what's called Journeys in Peru and Journeys in Africa. And it's essentially operated as our own in-house DMC. So we would work with Goe and we could do everything for you from the tours, transfers, all of that. And it would come at a unique price point for you to have all of that included in the experience.
Yeah, I knew that for Peru. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah.
But
also
that
Africa.
extends to every, just Africa and Peru, you get a sort of a combined price reduction, or would that extend to Europe as well?
So Europe, we don't necessarily have the DMC aspect where we would do all the tours and everything.
Okay.
However, our hotels absolutely can book transfers and all of that. It's more at an ad hoc basis for those. Yeah.
Right. So we mentioned at the beginning that this is Belmond being a luxury brand. I think people listening will understand that it is based on the cruising where you can charter your own vessels through the canals. For those that don't know, I'm going to use what I know well. Das Cataratas on the Brazilian side is the only hotel within the national park in Iguazu Falls. On the opposite side, the Argentinian side, you have the Sheraton. Is it Sheraton still? Sheraton Iguazu is the equivalent. But having been to both these two many times, Das Cataratas is simply stunning.
Yeah.
It's literally a stone's throw from the fall. So apart from it being these properties and services being very, very high end, a lot of them are also very uniquely located, which segues again to my backyard knowledge of the Sanctuary Lodge. Now, for those who may not know Machu Picchu, it's up on a hill. There's a little town below it, Aguascalientes, which is slowly being renamed Machu Picchu Pueblo. And that's where 99% of the hotels are.
Exactly.
Down in the valley, and they're beautiful, some stunning ones down there. But Belmond grabbed the Sanctuary Lodge, which literally also sits a stone's throw from the entrance to Machu Picchu. Now, it's not overly posh, but its location in this instance, I think,
that one's a bit smaller, and also because we have some restrictions with that.
It is very nice, don't get me wrong.
Yeah. That one mainly, though, because we're in partnership with the government for that one. So I definitely agree. I wouldn't say that is our most luxury property by any means, but it's definitely the location. You can get into the park, the first ones essentially, just because you're right there before the buses can come up.
Because worth pointing out that, as Andrew just mentioned, where the hotel is, during the day it is quite busy because it's where the entrance to the ruins are.
Right.
It's where all the buses come in, etc. And it's worth pointing out on a sort of training point of view here that by staying at the Sanctuary, you can get in, albeit the front of the line, but you can't get in any earlier and you can't stay any later.
Right.
Because sometimes we're asked that question.
Yes.
So that is a no to those two questions. But you are literally, 20 meters from when you walk out of the door to the entrance to Machu Picchu.
And so we do have a really nice garden behind the property that does offer privacy. So you don't really notice all the buses out front, but absolutely they're right there. And one of the best things about that, though, too, is that it makes it not be in a rush. So if you did want to go out or in and out of Machu Picchu a few times, you could also be the last one to leave the park, because a lot of people are going to catch the buses, right? So there's opportunities to kind of have as much privacy as you can.
No, 100%. And it's definitely, from a location point of view, it's probably one of the best located hotels in the world for what you're located next to. And the way I used to sell it is during the day it's busy, it'll be noisy because there's everyone there. But Aguascalientes at night time, it's not crazy noisy, but there's nightclubs and bars and stuff. It's a happening little town if you want that. But at night time at the Sanctuary Lodge, this is where the name comes into play, Sanctuary. It is stunning because there's no one up there other than the people in the lodge. And while you can't really see Machu Picchu, you know it's there. If you're into this, it's very spiritual. It's very mystical. So it's definitely worth it if you're looking for the Sanctuary, which will be at night, not during the day. Now, the train, I'm going to jump into Latin a bit here because that's where a lot of stuff happens, where probably the bulk of our work with you happens is in Peru.
Right.
So there are two trains. There's the Hiram Bingham, and that's named after the man who rediscovered Machu Picchu. And that runs from either Cusco or a town called Ollantaytambo, which is halfway down the Shaker Valley to Machu Picchu.
Right.
Most people will pick up the train on and off in Ollantaytambo. And this is a beautiful train right now. You're saying it's about 3.5 hours now? Is that right?
Definitely not your regular commuter train.
No, definitely not.
Ultra luxury. It's beautiful for the dining experiences on board, but I definitely loved the live entertainment aspect. It kind of makes that whole, especially if you're taking the journey to Machu Picchu, you're very excited to get there, and it makes it such a fun experience to kind of take that train ride there. Same thing though, it's definitely a party on the way back. People are excited after a nice day of kind of hiking around to just relax and enjoy and have a beautiful dinner on board.
Now, everyone out there, you can take a train in the morning, see Machu Picchu and return same day. It's not recommended. It can be done. Normally you would overnight, ideally at the Sanctuary Lodge, of course, and then come back the next day. And you can combine all the different trains. You can take one way, whatever. So I believe too that the Belmond was, most trains are doing it now, but was the first to have the viewing car on that particular observation car. And that's awesome because when you go to Machu Picchu, you're going down the valley, and the valley itself is stunning. So to be able to stand at the back of the train and get full panorama of the valley is amazing. I believe it has the glass ceilings as well.
It does.
And then you have the Andean Explorer. Now, back in the day, you used to connect Cusco to Lake Titicaca or Puno with a train, which was really just I think it was a Peru rail train that used to just connect. And then how long ago did Belmond start running the Andean Explorer?
It's been quite a few years now as well. So we still do the similar route to what you're saying.
Yep.
So it's Cusco. You can either do a 1 or 2 night journey.
Yes.
So one night could end in Puno, or if you're doing 2 nights, it goes on to Arequipa, and you can do the reverse trip as well. But the same thing, some of the excursions are at Lake Titicaca, where you could go see the floating islands. Yep. We visit the Sumbe Caves at one point. So there's a few different experiences to kind of hop on and off and see different areas that you're going through. But it is the highest altitude train journey on Earth. So you're getting some quite incredible landscapes that you're going through.
I've driven through there a gazillion times. It's if you like desert, you'll be in heaven. It's but it's a very different type of desert, very different type of landscape. So I haven't looked at this particular journey for a while. When you do the 2-night, i.e. Cusco via Puno to Arequipa, there is an option to go into the Colca Canyon, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So where does the train stop?
So
because it doesn't go into the canyon. That I know.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. We have a very unique point. It's just kind of a landing dock almost in the middle of the Andes. Yeah. It's really in the middle of nowhere. So when we do that, it's just a stop, and our team from Las Casitas meets the client.
Oh, so they come up from the canyon to pick
and
you up.
And they bring you to the hotel from that point. Right. But rather than going all the way to Arequipa, it actually saves quite a bit of time from your drive if you were going to head there. So
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So
so when the experience in the Colca Canyon is done, do you pick up the train, or they just drive you to Arequipa?
They would take you back to Arequipa.
They just drive you to Arequipa.
Exactly.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've mentioned you have the Singapore through Malaysia train, which is somewhat new. And you just, I've forgotten the hotel. You said a new one just opened, or you've taken over. Where was that?
Romazzino. So that's in Sardinia.
Oh, Sardinia. Okay.
So the latest to the collection. So that, if anyone is familiar with that region, that actually used to be a luxury collection hotel. This was the first year we took it over. This is the first hotel in our collection that we don't physically own.
So you own everything else? We
own everything else. Okay. That's one of the biggest benefits of LVMH to definitely keep in mind, because there's strong backing and strong investment to keep these hotels looking incredible, because they're physical assets of ours. But Romazzino was an exception. We really wanted to get into Sardinia, so this was a step that we could do that. So it's been open from May. It's actually just closed this past weekend for the season. It's going to reopen next May, and we're going to do some enhancements over this closure to get it even more to Belmond standards next year. Okay.
So are there any other new product developments on the horizon?
So that was the latest.
That sounds like a pretty big one.
Yeah, that was a big one. However, there's always expansion. The one thing I'll note is that because Belmond, like you kind of hinted at before too, it's very important for us to be in a unique location or have a very historic building that we're renovating. So we don't expand like crazy, like a lot of the other luxury brands.
You're very selective.
We're very selective, and it does take a bit of time to find the property. However, you will see more coming in Italy. That Italy is always a big a big area for us.
And they need some capacity down there. It's so busy.
It's always so busy. Everyone always wants to go there. So that will definitely be coming. You also will see Mexico start to.
Oh, really?
And kind of.
Whereabouts?
So we have purchased 2 properties. One's in Nayarit, I can say. The other is Nayarit. It's on the Pacific side.
Pacific side, okay.
So
north or more further south? I don't know that off the top of my head.
A bit further south.
Further south, okay.
So we just reopened Maroma, which is in the Riviera Maya.
Okay.
That had been closed for almost 3 years to do a full enhancement.
Is that COVID induced or just time for?
Weirdly good timing for us that happened.
If there was a good thing about COVID, that was good for you guys. Yeah.
They were going to do it anyway. So that was kind of the first luxury property that was built in that part of Mexico many years ago. So we didn't touch the exteriors, but we did a full renovation of it. And this was the full resort renovation since becoming part of LVMH. This was the first tackling of that, one of our properties. So really excited when it reopened end of last summer. And then I think they kind of want to build out Mexico a bit more similar. That's a very common thing for Belmond to have. Now you could do all of Italy with Belmond, right?
Yeah,
you could do all of Peru with Belmond.
Yeah.
So
okay, fair enough.
They like building out areas like that.
Okay, so you said there's another one coming, but you can't say where at this stage.
It will still be a couple of years before it opens, to be honest. But Mexico's on the horizon, but I'm sure more locations will be coming.
Okay. Now, we never really, I never asked the question. I've experienced it, you've experienced obviously. why Belmond? Why Belmond over another luxury brand? Be it the trains, I think, speak for themselves. I think they're unique in themselves, and that's why you go Belmond, because no one else has a train like the Hiram Bingham or the Andine Explorer, or does the classic Orient Express run, or the Scotsman. What was the Scotsman again? The Royal Scotsman. Royal Scotsman.
Yeah.
I think the canal cruises speak for themselves, where you can charter your own floating villa. Yeah. Again, to quote yourself. But why should someone choose, say, the Copacabana Hotel over some of the other beautiful luxury hotels in Rio or in Italy or anywhere else? I
think so. Belmond, really our whole thought process right now, we like to say we're perpetuating the art of legendary travel, but what that kind of means is we're focusing on slow travel. So we really want guests to, for example, not jam so many countries in one trip, or we really want people to extend their stay, relax, allow some time for spontaneity. Also, a big thing for Belmond is focusing on the experience on property. So culinary, wellness, sustainability, those are huge pillars for us. And creating and craftsmanship. So in Maroma, like in the Riviera Maya, I encourage people, if you have the time to go see that property, that's really where the whole collection is going. It took so long because we had local Mexican artisans hand paint every single tile in the property. Wow. So there's over 10,000 tiles. The couches in the suites, for example, the whole base is wood that took 6 months to hand carve. So
attention to detail is
incredible.
One thing, obviously,
we really want people, everywhere you look at one of our properties, there's kind of a story behind it. There's an educational component.
The uniqueness of its sound as well. Yeah,
and there's ties to the local community. That's super important for us as well.
So what's Belmond's philosophy on that fact? Particularly when you start talking about, I don't want to use developing countries because Peru is quite developed, but in people's mind, they might perceive Peru as developing. Mexico has its issues, but does Belmond do you just go in? It doesn't sound like you do. I'm playing devil's advocate. My question here: do you go in and take over a resort and sort of it's Belmond's and the finances all feed back to head office in Italy, or is it investment back into the respective local communities? Okay.
So. A couple things. Firstly, I'll just say that with Belmond, you'll also never see like a brand new building come up. We do. You'll see it's very popular for us to have former monasteries or former palaces. So we want to take these historic buildings and kind of repurpose them to be a hotel. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect, for example, like if keeping in Maroma, sustainability is a huge focus for us there. So we actually just partnered with a company called Parley for the Ocean. So now we have this whole plan in place to kind of preserve some of the coral reefs there and to kind of help the sustainability of the ocean. So
it's beyond the four walls and the rooms.
Beyond. And for example, even I was chatting with our team, they have an activity for the staff that they could do whenever they like. So they have a whole team where they can go out and kind of use cameras that Parley provides to coral map the ocean, to send them the footage. So it's kind of on their days off when they want to go snorkeling, they can do this, and it kind of just helps preserve that area.
And that same philosophy extends to all your properties and services, I would assume. Yeah.
My favorite one, which unfortunately we still have a hotel and a big river cruiser boat in Myanmar, but we haven't been able to reopen just given the conflict there. But my favorite thing was with that hotel that we had an actual clinic, like a health clinic with doctors. That was all Belmond owned. That kind of helped the country there. So we still actually have it. Hopefully everything will be up and operating soon. But
settle down.
Yeah, it's super important for us.
So in short, Belmond's putting back into the communities in which it works and has established itself. Wonderful. In the world of luxury travel, is Belmond the most expensive? Is it on par with other competitive products?
It's
when an agent wants to pitch this, because it's not an added cost, there is a cost to it, but you get what you pay for.
Yes.
And we often have travel agents have trouble not pitching prices, but justifying a cost of a service, be it a hotel, be it a train, be it Belmond, be it someone else's. Yeah. So in your mind, what's the easiest way, the best way to get around that pushback from an end user? Well, that's really expensive.
We are on the higher end, that's for sure. I will encourage people to either have a login on our Belmond Pro, which is our advisor portal, or just also to make sure you have my contact handy, because I'm happy to
I'll put all that up on the screen for those who are watching it.
The main thing is we understand that like people are spending a lot to stay with us, and this is their personal time, their vacations. So one of the main things Belmond does is we do include a lot of value adds that might not be necessarily top of mind when you think about it. Mm-hmm. So for Italy, for example, our hotel in the Amalfi Coast, which is up in Ravello, we're up in the hills. But if you actually look, we include a complimentary boat tour for every guest. They have access to a complimentary beach club that's like fully Diored out too. Dior is doing a lot of big partnerships with us. So there's a lot of additional inclusions where normally if you're going to that part of the country, you are going to be doing those things anyways, but you're getting it complimentary with us.
So it'd be fair to say that the hotels, beyond just, again, the four walls of the room, there's, I don't want to say it's resort-esque with included, but there are inclusions in most of the properties in the Belmond family.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so here at Go Away too, again, we are here talking about Belmond. We also have other luxury products and places where Belmond aren't, so it's a natural. And cost is a factor in any form of travel, right?
Yes.
People are very budget conscious, particularly these days. So if you do have those questions about, I'm talking to our agents out there now about why is that so expensive, just speak to Go, because we have ways to explain it. And again, people have to do some research as well. They can't just say, here's a hotel at Machu Picchu or here's a hotel in Venice, and just not look into why it may be worth it. And of course, as Andrea mentioned just then, when a property puts that much effort into the one in Mexico, I've forgotten its name already, sorry.
Maroma.
Yes. Like where you have hand-carved furniture and individually painted tiles, which in Mexico can be, I'm assuming it's a rather large property as well, or decent-sized property.
Yes, it's 72 rooms, but it's a sprawling property.
Yeah, so that translates to a lot of tiles in Mexico, having them all hand-painted. And it's also for a certain type of client. It's not for everyone, right? It's a discerning client. It's the clients who do have that type of budget. So have no fear. Speak to Go Away, or again, we will put up Andrea's information here if you want to go to her directly, which we have no problems with as well, speaking to our partners out there, because we know it, but Andrea knows it better than I do for sure. And she's been to almost all of them.
Almost all,
Got to hit the safaris. Okay, so we've covered any new stuff coming up. So Mexico is probably the next one on the horizon that's happened, the new hotel in Sardinia. Hopefully Miramar will open up when political things settle down. Is there anything else you'd like to leave our listening audience, our trade partners out there with about the Belmond line of properties and services?
Yeah, just to thank everyone for their support and just to keep as top of mind as possible. I know Belmond, sometimes all of our properties have their own unique names. People might not be familiar with Belmond as a brand, but they actually might be familiar with the Cipriani or things like that. So I'm always here to assist and kind of help more Canadians and anyone kind of experience the brand.
Yeah, and again, any of our US listeners in there too, we can Go Away can help you out, and I assume you'd have an equivalent in the US somewhere.
Yes, but also I can assist.
Of course. So again, Andrea can speak on behalf of her US partners as well. One thing I didn't ask about, because even though it is high end and price can often be a barrier, it's very, very popular product. We often find, particularly with, again, back to what I know well, the higher end Bingham, not so much the Annex Pool, but Sanctuary Lodge, booked out well in advance. So in general, what would be your most, well, not in general, talking specifically, what would be your most popular properties and or services? And in general, how far ahead should an agent be advising their clients to book?
Yeah, I think arguably probably the most popular collection would be the Italy hotels. Okay. Those definitely need a few months in advance. But
just a few months?
Yeah, because what's strange is we're noticing a lot of different patterns in the past couple of years. Like, for example, Italy used to always July, August be sold out.
Forget it, yeah.
But it's kind of changed now. We had that happen in May, June. A lot of people are going off season, and we did have some space in July, August. So I don't want to deter anyone to say we're sold out, but definitely Italy needs a few months, I would say. Or if you're flexible on dates, then we can usually find something. Similarly with the Royal Scotsman, that's a super popular train for us. So you definitely want, I would say, 6 months in advance if you're looking for specific dates or a specific cabin type, especially. But usually we can make something work if you have a bit of flexibility.
Oh, that's good to know, because Go Away over the last couple of years has run into, I don't want to say it's a problem for people wanting to book, It's a good thing for Italy that we've had to actually stop sell Italy in
Okay.
general,
Okay.
right? Because it's become so busy.
Yeah.
I was expecting you to say something similar, but you're saying for your properties in Italy, within reason, et cetera,
Within
et cetera.
reason.
Yeah,
There's
2
a
to 3
few
months ahead.
exceptions.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of
like
course, yeah.
Splendido Mare, for example, which is in Portofino.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 there, but Splendido Mare is 14 rooms. So if you want that
okay,
one,
right.
that
Yeah,
one
okay.
definitely more in advance. But yeah, usually if someone is saying we want to go to Italy, we're a bit flexible, we can put something together for them.
Well, that's good from the Belmond property point of view, but for those listening, don't think that it applies to all of Italy, unfortunately. Yeah. We strongly suggest for Europe in general that you're booking now for next year.
Yeah.
So 6 to 8 months ahead would be good.
It's definitely starting to come in.
Yeah. And obviously, though, for Belmond and Seam in Italy, they have a little bit more, I don't want to say flexibility, but a little more space at the expected high season. So keep that in mind as well. And always flexible. Or not you, our travel partners, your clients, ask them to be somewhat flexible, particularly if they're coming in with late requests.
Yes,
for anywhere in the world, but particularly Europe and also because of Italy.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, I'd like to thank Andrea for her time today. It was really
thank
fascinating.
you.
I learned some stuff. I thought, again, I knew my Peru stuff, but I didn't know a lot of the other stuff. The floating villas, canal cruises sound really cool.
They're incredible.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the train in Europe is what I expected it to be. Very, very nice. So I wish you luck in getting down to Botswana to hit those.
Yes, hopefully next year. I
Oh,
think
really?
So. Yeah.
Those remaining 2 bits of Belmond property. Everyone else out there, thank you for listening today. Really appreciate your time. And Andrea, thank you again from
Thank you.
Belmond.
Awesome.